What do you do in the evening when you don't know what to do? Read a book, play a game, every night is just the same. What do you say if I tell you how to keep from feeling blue? My advice is good to take and it's easier to do. When you're all alone, any old night, and you're feeling out of tune, pick up your hat, close up your flat, and get out and get under the moon. Underneath the bright, silvery light, you'll be feeling better soon. Pick up your hat, close up your flat, and get out and get under the moon. Look, look, look at the stars above. Look, look, look at those sweeties love. Oh boy, give me a night in June. I mean it, all you got to do any old night when you're feeling out of tune. Pick up your hat, close up your flat, and get out and get under the moon. When you make a date any old night, gonna meet your sweetie soon. Pick up your hat, close up your flat, and get out and get under the moon. Underneath the bright, silvery light, that's the only place to spoon. Pick up your hat, close up your flat, and get out and get under the moon. Walk, walk, kissing and walk again, talk, talk, kissing and talk again, oh joy, sweethearts are all in tune. I mean it, when it's raining out, stay in a room, but on a lovely night in June, here's what to do, sweetie, and you just get out and get under the moon. If you're with a girl and she is cold, says she doesn't want her spoon, don't you feel blue? Here's what you do, just get out and get under the moon. If you feel a kiss and she gets sore, she'll forget it mighty soon. Don't stop to fret, she'll learn to pet when you get her under the moon. Indoors, there's not a thing to do. In-laws walk in and out on you. Oh boy, sister and brother too. I've tried it, just take my advice. If she is nice, nice as any night in June, just take her hand, she'll understand, and get out and get under the moon.
Well, how about that, ladies and gentlemen? It is another Sunday Night Haunters Anonymous. How is everybody doing? As always. Oh, before I hand it over to James, actually, I want to officially go on record and say congratulations to Virgin Galactic, Sir Richard Branson, and Unity 22 for their historic space flight today. It is phenomenal. If you didn't see it, you should go see it. Now I'll pass it on to James.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Cool night tonight. We've got Zac Black here. We're gonna have some discussions about haunt acting and some stuff. So that's cool. You know, Zac is always fun to have on. We'll get him going at about 9:15. We got about 10 minutes to kill before we're there. But
Well, we'll say everybody, hey Ellen, hey Zach,
yeah,
hey
hey
Vic,
Aaron, hey Jessica, Vic,
Jessica, how are you doing? The space flight was phenomenal. The next thing I'm going to do is watch the video of the presenting of the astronaut pens and
yeah.
the party and all that stuff. I'll watch that later, but I had to watch the flight itself live.
Also, happy Shark Week to everybody. If you're
Shark.
into that,
There
you
you
should
go.
be, because sharks are important to the world.
Let's see. As far as haunt news, not really much going on. Um, no real news right now. We'll probably be in a slight lull. They had 4 passengers and 2 pilots, Vic. So it was 2 pilots and then 4 passengers. In Unity 22, and of course there's 2 pilots in the. Oh God, what was the name of it? It's his mom's name. It's 2 pilots the launch ship, and then 6 total in Unity 2. I think the ship's name is Eve. Eva? I can't
Yeah, I
remember.
think so. Bubbles' voice, decent.
So, but definitely historic. Definitely historic. And of course, now Sir Richard Branson is considered astronaut 001. The launch ship was fantastic. The whole system that they've done is, yeah, it's just amazing. Between him and Elon Musk with SpaceX, so much wonderful things have happened in such a very short amount of time. So, yeah, Mach 3, I would have freaked out. I've been like, we're going too fast. And,
Okay, YouTube, are you being moody again?
wow, what's YouTube doing?
Just froze for me, and I see our number dropping.
Man, we haven't had that problem in a while.
I know. Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Especially because I
Yeah.
literally just told my mom the other day. She's like, "Yeah, I don't go on YouTube because it sucks and it kicks me off." Like it hasn't done that in a while, and then instantly kicks me
Because
off.
your mom's on. But yeah, Vic, the fact that all of those people could sit in basically a spaceship with no helmets. Uh, the suits they have are made by um, oh my god, tip of my tongue. I can even see the symbol. But the fact that they could just comfortably sit in those seats, that's the whole idea with Sir Branson is, it's a customer flight. Oh my god, not body armor. Oh my god, I can't think of the damn name of the people that made the damn suits.
Under Armour?
Very cool. Under Armour, yes.
I know one of the owners of that company.
Do you?
Yep.
We need to get some Under Armour Mr. Dolo shirts. I'm just kidding. Yeah, SpaceX, for what, it's 2 ends of the spectrum with Musk and Branson. Um, it's just, I don't know. It'd be great if the world would like look at all the positive stuff and, keep going.
I gotta share this to the After Dark group.
Am I the only one that hears like a shush noise every once in a while? Let me know in the comments.
I
Because
don't
if
hear
it's
it.
me, it's just like a shh. Every once in a while, like a shh. There it
No.
was again.
No, I don't hear that.
Shh.
I hear you doing it.
I'll stop doing it. If anybody else hears it, let me know. Mr. Dolo Speedos.
That's
Actually,
funny. Actually, we did have that.
yeah, that it's just not quite on the store yet, but we do have them. Yeah, the flight to Mars is amazing. One-way trip.
I hear your microphone is just slightly picking. It might not even be you. It might not be you.
Let me let me turn my gain down just a little bit.
No, it's
I know
not
that.
you. I can see who it is.
Is it Zach?
Yep.
Oh, damn it. Damn you, Zach.
It's just picking up his microphone just a tad bit.
I'm glad that's not me. So I'm glad it's Zach. I'm glad we can blame.
We can bring him
audio
on
tech.
now though, so
Yeah, I would say go ahead. Go ahead and introduce him and bring him on. I mean,
I don't need to
there's no
introduce
news on
Zach.
it.
Like if you don't know Zac Black already, then what are you doing with your life? But anyway, Zach, say hello.
Hello. How's it going?
There he
How's
is.
everybody doing? And thanks for the compliment. If you don't know Zac Black, what are you doing with your life? Probably something better. Let me just say that. Like, probably doing what you should be doing. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. Anyways. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about crowd interactions and things that I've picked up on over the years that aren't necessarily easily understood. It took several trial and error and seeing certain things happen over and over to become clear on certain things. And I had been reading comments about people providing, directions to people about what they should do. And I read a few lines here and there in certain chat rooms, and I was kind of like, that's bad advice. And I'd like to kind of explain why. And I don't want to seem like I'm arguing with somebody or try to bust them out in front of everybody or, come off like I'm belittling them. Because they are, they were trying to provide positive guidance. So I saw it as positive that they're, throwing some stuff out there. But there's a few moves that I know are not good ones. And I want to just kind of elaborate on some of it. Because I've done it, I've seen other people do it. And it's not a good chess move. Basically, like, you're going to lose the game if you make that move. So I just wanted to elaborate on some of that. And also bounce it off. I mean, I understand James has done some of the crowd, wandering type of stuff. I don't really know, very familiar with certain people, how many years and what all they've done and all that. But, if they've had similar experience, I'd like for them to chime in too. But there is a point where if you're trying too hard, like it's a bad thing. One of them was, I think the thing that piqued my interest the most in talking about it was a fellow was in a group and he said, well, when the customers are acting smart ass, or challenging you, or basically like starting in with you, he gave a list of things you could do in response. One is don't say anything. One's go get scaredy, or, tell somebody, just leave. There's all kinds of stuff. And certain honors might ridicule someone for walking away, because then they'll say, well, every time someone's a smartass, you're walking away and then there's no show, which that's not accurate. I mean, most of the crowd doesn't act that bad, like most of them are either just smiling or they're a little spooked. The smartasses are here and there, and then the violent people are here and there. And in my experience of like 9 Octobers of just crowd wandering, it's a rarity when things get real bad. It does happen, but in my experience, it's real minimum. Mm-hmm. So, if somebody's there trying to get your goat or insult you or basically ask you a bunch of jackassy questions, it's all right to be like, basically, you shouldn't feel like you're not a good haunt actor if you decide to tap out or walk off or whatever. Because one fella, the comment that particularly disturbed me was he said, well, what you can do is you can smart off to them and like basically talk smack and then, shut them down that way. Well, you can, and sometimes that does work. But sometimes they go, oh yeah, and then they're going to bow up, and then there could possibly be a fist fight. That's occurred. I've seen that happen, and in the worst case scenario, and this only happened one time, but it did happen, and I don't want it to happen to any other haunter. It was an incredibly nerve-wracking situation, and here was the scenario. This huge fight broke out. I wasn't in the scene. I knew the dudes that were in the scene. I know how they are. I know how some of the crowd can be. Basically, these ruffians came through. One thing led to another, and blows were exchanged. Fight started off in the scene, wound up in an adjacent area. And when I got to the scene, I just heard security going, "Oh, all security, come on, come on!" So I hauled ass with them to help, and there was a group of their friends shouting with a group of our actors, and it was about like 5-on-5, and then it seemed to turn like 10-10 when it came to the people that were really, really, really angry with one another. One of my friends was tackling apparently whoever threw the first punch with the police trying to handcuff him. And everybody else surrounding it was shouting and screaming. And I can count on one hand how many times I thought I might actually die. But that night, I was like thinking, one of these dudes might pull a gun, or they might have a knife, and I can't watch all of them. I had 3 dudes in my face screaming at the top of their lungs at the cop and my friend, trying to put the cuffs on their friend. And the whole time they were lunging forward as if they were going to interfere. And I kept telling them to stand back. I had a pole in my hands to kind of like use as like a barrier. But I had 3 people like screaming in my face that wouldn't listen. And I'm like, I just kept barking back at them. I was like, stay back, stay back. And they're yelling at me. I'm yelling at them, and everybody's damn yelling. And it was like really, really, really nerve wracking. After everything was all said and done, that night changed me. I mean, I still have a little bit of, PTSD from it. Like I was not the same person after that night. I don't want anybody to feel that, like what I felt right then. But it comes from when someone is, like showing signs that they're ready to fight. If you try to scare them while they're hostile, they might punch you. And in my opinion, if 2 people want to brawl, I don't have a problem with it, really. To me, it's like sex. They're consenting. They want to do it. Go ahead. But everybody else around you, no. Like, I didn't want any of that action. I didn't want to be involved in that. And a whole bunch of people were heated. So basically it spreads like fire, small flame, then boom, like everything's on fire. And so when it comes to the direction of telling people, well, smart off back or bow up at them, it's a bad move. I mean, it can be done and you can get away with it, but you need to think about like everybody else around you might not want any of that, So I'm hearing them say, things like, well, just, return the same energy is not exactly the best move. Like I say, it's just it's a thing where sometimes you have to tell yourself, is this worth it? Is it? I know that one of the dudes in that scene would brag about telling me he could crack people. Like basically what that means is someone's going through the haunt or you're outside and they're acting like they're not scared. And you keep on trying to make them scared. Well, eventually they break down and then scream or run or dodge or duck or whatever. But I don't think trying to crack people is a good move. And then mathematically speaking, the people that do crack are 1 out of like 2,000 or 1,000. Like,
plus you're spending too much time on one person if you're doing that.
Yeah. But then again, my professional opinion is when dudes come through the haunt and I'm like, bleh, and then they raise their fist, like they say something like, I'll knock you out, man. I'm like, on to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
On rare occasions, I'll admit I've been real tired and grumpy, and about 55 guys said something in one night, and my nerves are a little raw. And dude, by the end of the night, when I'm tired, the dude says, "I'll bust you in the face," and I'm like, "All right, we'll swing," and then they don't. But it's not a good safety wise and strategy wise. It's not a good move to push it or to like talk smack back. It's totally like fine if the dude just walks on. Like you're not less of a man or less of a haunt actor because you say pass, like forget about it. So reading some people's guidance towards saying things like, well, get aggressive back or say something, and then in a whole nother haunt, this little bit, this dude came running around the corner while I was talking to the guy who runs it. And he said, "Man, this guy just punched me." And the the dude I was with at the time said, "We'll hit him back." And this kid was like, this kid weighed about like 80 pounds. He's like a tiny stick figure. It's like, man, you don't tell that little kid to punch somebody back. He's one blow from a big giant dude, and he's like annihilated. I mean, that's like a bad, that's bad coaching.
Yeah.
I just have to say that in all my years of all the trial and error, and just do it in the middle of the road. I think it's like the best template for haunt acting is, do it a little and then knock it off. Like test them out, and if you don't get the reaction you want, let them go on.
Yep.
Just let them go on. It's not, you know what I'm saying. You get too much of an ego involved.
That's what it is. It's 100% ego when you're trying that hard. It's not about doing your job anymore. It's about satisfying your own ego because
right.
oh, I can do this. Well, you're not proving anything. If anything, you're kind of ruining it for other people because you're now taking time away from, possibly scaring them.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's a bad move, and in all honesty, in the earlier years when I started it, there would be times, where I would test the boundaries or experiment with, well, let's see if this is scarier than that, or let me try this one liner out, or, I can understand where some of the haunt actors like fall into that mistake because it's not a rewarding feeling when you're putting all this effort into the boo and then they're like, or they laugh at you or whatever. And it's like, I've seen plenty of people not like the response they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard several actors came to me or I pass by and hear them talking about what happened that night. And, there's quite a chunk of them, especially if they're young or if it's their first year. They're going to want, the boost of how good it feels when you get the scare, and since there's not some people, a lot of them aren't scared, that can kind of like wear on their mood. They can be like, man, I'm trying all this stuff and no one's scared. And then they start feeling, like down that they're not getting what they want out of it. But I think those scenarios should be discussed, like they basically need to be prepped or there needs to be, like more discussions about that feeling and just say, hey, look, that's how it's going to be. Before, if this is your first year, second or third, or especially on their first, they should be told by people like myself or someone who's been in it for a long time, hey, you can expect that certain people just aren't going to be afraid of you. And, just try your best to not let that bother you. And also, don't feel like you suck if you back away from the situation. Sometimes, I've seen chatter on the internet about, I'll never break character, that's a badge of honor, or like they're boasting about it. And I'm like, that's cool for the most part, but there's times where you need to stop. And I've de-escalated several situations, even when someone's being rude to me, by just stopping. Like I quit acting. I talk to them in a normal tone of voice so they know I'm dropping the act, try to talk nice. I'm like, dude, this isn't what this is about. And if you came here to start fights and whatever, it's time for you to go. And just say, hey, I don't think I'm tougher than you. I don't think, but you just need to go.
Yeah, that's
And
one of
say,
those hot button things too, is because everybody always like, don't break character or whatever. And that's all fine and well, but if you're in a situation like that the haunt doesn't want you to break character, they need to be able to provide security throughout to give you the freedom to not worry about breaking. If you have to do it, you have to do it. There's no other. If somebody's losing their mind, are you just going to stand over them and continue going? No. Like there's no reason to be that kind of person.
yeah, I've seen people burst into tears, and in my first year it's kind of like I wasn't really thinking, it's like snicker snicker ha ha, but after a few times I was like, man, if they like stop in the middle of the trail and they're bawling, you need to let them up. And just like at that point they're a traffic jam. They're not going to be a danger to themselves because they're curled up in a ball, but it's just like too much. And one year I heard a lot of chatter about how our show was weak and how it was going downhill, and all that talk got under my skin. I was like, the next year I came in with the whole, we're going to be scary as hell. We're going to be hardcore. We're going to be this hardcore thing that the world's ever seen. Well, that energy caused more injuries than we had in any other year. And that's when I was like, oh boy, did I just screw up, man. Like that was like not a good thing to do. But that's a live and learn thing. And that's when I readjusted back to, well, instead of going at a level 10, you should be in the middle, like a 5 or a 7. But trying too hard, man, it just causes a lot of chaos. I mean, when someone's truly scared of their life, okay, they will run over someone in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll run into a wall, like fights break out, when you're like trying way too hard, it triggers people's like serious self-defense. And when it's like yelling fire in a crowded theater. So, some of these personalities online, I'm like going, oh no, they're doing that amateur thing that I've seen before, and I've done it before. And it's like, don't, I just want to tell them, like, that's like not the right spirit. I mean, I guess if someone wants to open up a rated X haunt to where you about pee or crap on yourself, fine. I mean, I'm all for free business as long as they prep you for what you're about to get into and you want it, fine. But I recommend professionally having, experimented with so many different ways to mess with people. You don't want to crank up the intensity full blast.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good move at all.
No, and there are, he who shall not be named has proven that there are limits that so they don't need to be crossed at certain points.
I just want to let all the other haunters out there know, and I want this, the atmosphere to be, it's okay to be mediocre or like not that awesome, or it's fine for you to take a break. It's fine. Like a lot of places hate, heard in certain groups, they bitch about the haunters that aren't in their scene, like they're not dedicated enough. Some of them do slack too much. I've seen it all. I've seen hardcore. I've seen slacking to the maximum. I've seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
But setting the atmosphere of, it's uncool if you lift your scene. It's uncool if you break character. It's uncool. It's like, no, it's totally fine. Like, we're human. We have to pee. We get sick. And sometimes that can be an emotional sickness too. One year, doing my rounds, a young dude who was, wanting to be real scary and whatnot. It's his first year. I walked through and he was like, hey, dude, come here. I stopped and he said, "What's going on, man?" And he said, "Man, these people that just came through, man, they really pissed me off so bad." Like he was like fuming, you know. I could tell he was so worked up, you know. He wanted to punch the next person that talked smack, you know. And so I looked at the dude and I said, "Hey, man, you know, you got to remember that we're doing this for fun, and it isn't worth your life, or it's not worth you getting beat up or you beating somebody else up. So, dude, if you're that mad, take 5 or take 10, walk off, go get a hot dog, go get a drink, go chill, and then come back in here and face it again. And you know, don't listen to anybody along the way telling you that you're too weak or you're not good enough or you're not all that." I was like, because they don't know how mad you are. You do. So that's why I told him, you know, and I saw this big relief over his whole body language and everything. It was like a huge relief. And he was like, "Man, thanks." Because I could tell he really thought a lot about me, thinking he's okay or not. You know what I mean? Like, and he didn't want to let me down or his peers down. And when he heard me tell it like it is, it relieved him of being way too stressed out about what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I felt really good at that moment. I was like, you know, there's things that in my life that I've fumbled or I'm not always 100% on point, but I could tell he needed to hear that. And it made me feel really good to give him that out. So, you know, if they're cranking it up to, "You can't leave for 1 second, you can't break character," you know, it's like, hold on. I know they don't want weak performers and slackers and all, but come on, it's all things in moderation. And you know, to keep, you know, like I say, you keep it at a 5 or a 7. And I heard another guy, I mean, we didn't have like a training program where I came from. It was all just like figure it out as you go. But now that people are developing more documentation or organization or whatnot off of all this, the Facebook groups and the internet talkings and whatnot, I've, having done reviews and visiting other haunts, I have heard in passing other people like give their synopsis on how you go about it. And one dude said that you keep your energy at about a level 7 because you got to go all night long.
Mm-hmm.
And if you full throttle 10, you're going to be wore out by the end of the night. And I thought, you know what, that's healthy. That's a healthy way to set it to someone that they're not Superman, you know, like it's okay to not be Superman. And the Superman energy, like I said, I've used it, I've done it. It's bad. it's all bad. It does not work out. And like James was saying earlier, you're not scaring someone when you're irritating the hell out of them. It's not pleasurable for them. And I, you know, tried some of that out, man. I did when Captain Spaulding came out, you know, I ripped some of that energy off, tried to do the Spaulding thing. And man, there's a few times out there where I said something really abrasive. One dude just laughs it off and don't care. The person right behind him was like seriously, totally PO'd about what just came out of my mouth. And I was like, this is bad. You know, after a little while, I was like, I'm hanging this up. I'm not going to, I don't like this gimmick or this character. The shtick is not really what I had in mind. So there's times where it does go too far. And then as someone who did some reviews for a couple Octobers, that reinforced that. I mean, in fact, it gave me an even better perspective because I'm going through as a paying customer. And I got some dude who's like a foot taller than me lingering in my face for 5 minutes as I'm walking. And I'm like, dude, A, I'm not scared. B, you're really making me feel like punching you. It's like, yeah, so I got a dose of like how that stuff feels. And it was incredibly broadening to my vision in the whole haunt business to be treated like that by some of the actors. And I'm like, you know, I'm looking at the dude like rolling my eyes. You know, it's like, I'm like, dude, I'm not scared. And then I could tell he's not satisfied with the fact that I didn't cower in fear. And he's like lingering some more. I'm like, what's this gonna, like, bro, what are we doing here? Like,
Stop
you know,
wasting your time.
yeah, it's just, it was annoying, you know, it was annoying. I've even stopped and told, I mean, gone through my old haunt before and had somebody not even know who I am do that. And I'm like, dude, like, I've done this for years. Like, what you're doing to me right now is, it's not working. And sometimes the people coming through the haunt, man, they're like a 10th degree black belt or a war veteran, and you're in their grill like for 10 minutes. I mean, it's, you got to think, you know,
It really is an amateurish thing, though. To let your ego take over so hard that you're going to, you know, and I know people just like that because and they'll leave their designated areas, um, and it's like they're doing everything they can to get that one scare, but if they would stop and think, like, dude, like I could probably have gotten 15 scares had I just stayed back and not worried about that one person. And it's
yeah,
You know,
I
you
go,
get.
what's that?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, like I was gonna say is for me personally, I'll go through a house and I don't jump scares don't get me super easily. Um, I go through houses to enjoy the scenery. I don't really give so much a crap about the scares. Pretty hard to get me. Um, but I just love the scenery. So I don't want somebody to waste their time trying to scare me because if you're just following me, that's not going to do anything. It's just like you said, it's going to annoy the shit out of you.
Well, you get, and I've seen this quite a bit. You get actors that they believe coming to the haunt is their own personal daily therapy,
Hmm.
and they will actually come and let out all their aggressions of the day in their personal life at the haunt. And I make sure everybody knows not to do that. That if you've got issues, if you're angry, if you come to the haunt angry, then you either need to resolve it, talk to me, punch a tree, or leave. Um, and I'm also going back on some other things. I'm also a proponent of keeping anything that an actor does PG 13. I'm definitely not. I'm not all about getting up in somebody's face. That's what, keeping a distance is your best bet in general. But I also think that the ones that the actors that want to get up in people's face, like within inches, are the ones that are bringing their therapy sessions to the haunt, and they don't need to be there. Um, and then as far as customers, they get rowdy. Uh, the mazes and stuff that I've designed and put together. Every actor has the ability to not be cornered in their own scene, so
Hmm.
the scenes are relatively large or tend to be, as far as getting away from somebody, and they all have emergency exits. Like there's always a way to get out of your scene if a customer gets too bizarre. Because if you just leave somebody, if you just disappear, that rowdy customer will just go on to the next one. And if they go to the next one and that person disappears because they're being a-holes, they'll eventually get the idea that, you know what, maybe I should calm down. But I also am a firm believer if you have a rowdy customer uh, in the haunt, then there's also always a way to communicate with either managers, owners, or whatever. And I've had no problem shutting a haunt down temporarily and going in there and having either an officer or, other people come and remove people. I personally don't put up with that on either end of the spectrum. Actors keep their distance, keep your mouths in check. And if you have a customer that goes over the line too much or too long, then they just lose their money. You go and get them out, shut the haunt down, let the line know we've got a rowdy customer. I've never had an issue with that. Everybody would prefer that person to be out of there anyway. So that's my 2 cents.
yeah. One place I went through with a buddy of mine, I wasn't doing the review, but I accompanied him. Their setup was as follows, and it was a lot better. I thought it was like the best setup that I had seen as far as getting that kind of thing um, under control. And basically, what they had was a security guard in each area. And so the security guard's like watching both sides. So security guards monitoring the actors. and the crowd, which was way better because in certain situations, let's say all the security guards are not in the scene or near it, and if something happens, they didn't see it, and then they're getting called, and it's by the time they're there, it's too damn late. It's but the one where I saw that was the best setup is security was everywhere scattered, and they were making sure that everything was going like it should. And also, I like that setup better where maybe it's security monitoring because I've also noticed on the internet, and it happened my home haunt, where the actors get territorial. They'll form groups. You know, we're the we're the
The Clown Brigade.
yeah. I was trying to avoid saying it, but I'm gonna say it. We're
Learn.
army. we're the gang of dudes. Like, and then they'll run each other out because they want to hog the scene or the spotlight or so those guys are not good for monitoring each other. You don't want the actors to be the supervisors. They're gonna just cause it solves a lot of problems when the supervision is not actor based.
Don't let the inmates run the asylum.
Yeah, that's
Well,
just
that
horrible.
well, now oddly enough, I mean, and I can see where you're coming from with that. That's actually how I've relied on. Um, I think if you train your people well enough and you put your foot down and make sure they know not to be territorial and that yes, you all have to watch each other. You're all supposed to be quote unquote a family in here. You're a collective clockwork. Um, I've that's a majority of how I've relied on it, and it's worked really well. But it also depends how you train your people. Um, se- uh, our security guards are literally the people that are the adults in the haunt. I also don't put up with territorial bullshit. I tell them, look, if you're tired of your scene and you want to go somewhere else, just coordinate it. You want to switch around, that's fine. If they don't want to switch around, find somebody else. I think it depends on how you actually train your actors. But also, I've been around a lot of people where you wouldn't want to screw with them in regular life, and these people get in a haunt, you don't want to screw with them there either. So,
Yeah, but I think that was the thing that weighed on me the most was like I really wish, in general, the atmosphere, the things that are being said, widely on the internet is it's okay to be human. It's okay to like, if you're all pissed off to take 5 or 10 or just tell somebody you're irritated and you need a breather. Um, I think the last like really heated scuffle I got up on with somebody, I'm walking by, I'm not even messing with him, and dude decides he wants to pick a fight with me. And it made me mad because they're the worst kind of customer, and it's a rarity when I deal with them. It's been a long time. So I told him off. I was like, you guys like you ruin the fun, and I can't stand it when people like you do this. But before it got too, escalated and too bad, I'd said my piece. He said he did his thing to me. I said my piece back, and then I walked off and told management. So this dude right here just tried to start something, and I don't feel like less of a man from walking off, especially considering the big group fight I described earlier in the show. I mean, it's like okay, well, it happens, whatever. But I don't want any hunters out there to feel like they are less of an actor for walking off.
Well, that's
I mean,
where like, and I know it's only because Universal is so massive and they have so many people on staff, and it's not feasible for smaller things. Um, but when you work for Universal, your sets are 45 on, 45 off for the whole night. Um, so you get that downtime to like if you have a crappy set, you have 45 minutes to take a few minutes and you know reflect and be like, all right, well, what do I need to do differently? Or that guy was an ass. So that like I know obviously that it's only because they've got a massive budget and the ability to hire way more people than are necessary. In small haunts, you don't get that ability. You're in a spot for hours, so
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I'm glad to hear MD talk about having those emergency exits. I have a CAD degree, and I actually drew up floor plans for the year that I was all gung ho, and the strategy was that with all these like trap doors, one actor could scare one line several times from multiple angles and like not be trapped stationary.
Mhm.
And so basically, that means it gives the appearance you have more people than you actually have. And since that is a problem, staffing small haunts or medium sized or low budget haunts, what they need is as many people as willing to do it and rotate them. Like
Mhm.
what you're talking about, 45 on, 45 off. That's great. I mean, you need more actors than you have scenes so that you can let them rotate out and they're not like too pissed or overworked. That helps them not be so angry. Also, I mean, one time we had a night where we were out there till damn 2 a.m. because it just was packed and they didn't give them a break. It was just ramming people through. And
Mhm.
the next day, the actors were pissed. I mean, they were so mad. And I was like, I wasn't stuck in a scene. I was a yard dog wanderer, but I was pissed and it didn't even happen to me. And I was like, come on, guys. I mean, like, you can't just wear people out like that. They're going to be mad or it affects their morale. So I'm glad of any place that has people on rotation and has enough of them. But I've seen a lot of the haunts make the mistake of, you know, not having enough people. They'll build your haunt smaller.
Yeah,
These dudes, they build their haunts like they're wieners. You know, like they want to show off who's got the biggest.
that
And it's
ego
like,
thing.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you know
I'm like,
what's interesting, real quick, is speaking of all this, I have noticed already this year there's a lot more haunted attractions putting out there that they will pay their actors. Some that I know primarily use volunteers. They're actually putting out there that people are going to get paid this year, and I think it's because they know that this is not the year of the volunteer.
Yeah,
So I wanted to
pizza.
throw
The
that
cold
out there.
pizza's not going to cut it.
Yeah, the
yeah,
RC Cola.
my thoughts on that are you want to do a volunteer haunt for charity, cool. I'm fine with it. I've done it. But if you're a older than 3 years old haunt, you might start off volunteer so you can get the money rolling to, you know, add on or do what you need to do with it. But after a few years, you should be paying. But volunteer alone, uh, and I've seen them like act, you know, complacent about the actor's behavior, and it's like, well, you get what you pay for. I mean, you can't work them like they're a McDonald's employee and not put any money in their pocket. I mean, if you want to like complain or be hard on them, you better, give them something to, make that appropriate. I don't care if people do volunteer haunts or, I've done volunteer stuff, but don't act all like strict and corporate on those people. Shake their hand and say, thanks for spending money on a costume and showing up and facing some of these smart ass people and pat them on the back, shake them on the hand. But don't bother whining and complaining, if you're not paying them anything. I mean, you're making off
Well,
like a bandit. Like you have
well,
like zero rights to complain.
well. When you have actors, and I've had this happen. When you have actors, they know that the owners are making bank, and they're not even being offered to be paid. Uh, that's when you start losing people. Um, some, like I say, some folks, if it's a charity haunt, if you go in, it's like, you know what, I know you pay people, but I'll work for free because it's a charity haunt. That's fine. But the era of the forced volunteer haunted attraction, I think it's gonna very quickly start coming to an end this year, and from then out, you're still gonna have the people that just want to do it for the fun. But haunted attractions make a good one will make a lot of money, and you can always tell the ones that make really good money that know what they're doing because they don't have volunteers. They want to pay you because then they have control over you in a good way. But the whole big ass haunt making bank having volunteers, I think that's going to the wayside. I think there's going to be some trouble this year with haunts that think they can rely on nothing but volunteers while the owners put a ton of money in their pockets.
Or what my beef is like if you expand the size of your haunt and you're having, morale problems with your actors. I mean, like, at what point do you quit making it bigger and bigger and then complaining that you don't have enough people and it's not running properly? And then, like, if you're not paying them and they're working hard, some of them will quit, but some of them won't. And then they're staying there and they're complaining, which I've heard in certain places. I'll hear the complaints because they're too scared to, like, tell the boss. They're not going to say anything they don't want to ruin their gig, you know. And so I hear stuff that those guys don't hear, a lot of it. And I'm just like, well, I look at some people and go, if it sucks, why are you still here? It's like, I've heard, you know, everyone's gripes and complaints. And at a certain point, I wanted to do something about that in some places, but I couldn't, and I failed, and I just wound up getting into a bunch of social problems, and I'll never repeat that mistake again. I tried to turn certain things around, but if the people that run it don't want to change it, I mean, they're really actually the ones that have the power and the leverage to make the quality better or to make the appropriate changes. If you as an actor try to do it and they're not really behind it, you're going to fail. I mean, speaking from personal experience.
Well, Reggie's got a good point too, though. If you're dealing with actors, make sure if they get hurt, they actually tell you. He's had 4 concussions and never told them because he didn't want to stop. There is, if you're doing volunteer, you know, I think you need to make extra sure that your actors are comfortable and taken care of.
Yeah, to me, if they're volunteering and they're not enjoying it, they're staying and they're griping and their morale is down. They're kind of depressed about it, sort of, and it's kind of like they're trapped into that. I want to do this, but they're like, I do, but I don't. I do, but I don't, because it's hard work. Sometimes, some nights are more work than others, depending on the crowd. And sometimes the crowd can be really sweet and no problems, and then the next night it can be like a whole bunch of a-holes at the same night, sort of like the weather, and experience hunters will vouch for that. It's like chaotic, it's off and on. But I just think that when it comes to the volunteer thing, it's fine to a degree, but if you're going to make your haunt bigger and bigger and bigger and your volunteer base, come on. Like, it should be smaller, medium size, so you can rotate all of those people. If you build it so big that those people can't rotate, then they're all pissed off. And pay is good, but no matter what you pay someone, you can overwork them regardless. I mean, they can get their nerves racked too much with too many rowdy people that come through.
Oh, yeah.
When the rowdy people come through and upset them, if they don't get a breather, I'm that way. To me, it's like scuba diving. Like, I'll go down, but when I need to go up for air, I go up for air. If someone's telling me when I can and can't breathe, it's a different ball game. If they let me do it when I want, I'm cool. But there's times where in the middle of those thick crowds, I want out of it. I've had moments where I'm like, I'm surrounded by 50 belligerent dudes that are probably on this football team, and there's one of me, and I'm not really feeling safe. So I'm walking over here, or I'm getting out of this thick crowd for a second, and I'll go back in when I'm feeling a little more like it's okay. But if I had somebody dictating to me when I do and don't, they could put me into some situations that I know are not good. So they grant me the freedom to weave through a crowd, I'm fine. But when they start going, you can't leave right now, I'm like, well, I'm feeling pretty damn nervous right about or angry. And so I got to be able to, like, escape from the mob of folks when I need to. Hearing about those emergency exits was awesome to hear you talk about that. I mean, I'm just like, that should be standard. I mean, like, you need panic rooms and escape routes, and those need to be.
Oh, he said the key word. Hold on, I gotta play this. I can't take it anymore. I just want to die. You guys won't hear it, but they'll hear it on the stream.
All right.
Sorry, I had to interject there once you said the secret word.
What
Oh
was
yeah,
that?
one
Vaping clown.
one more aspect to the acting end of it. You hear people talking about their lines, and I'm like, in standard haunt, there's a scene. You're walking through there, and you're not really supposed to stop and hang out. Like you're moving on to the next scene, right? In most cases, um, coming up with a whole bunch of dialogue is really kind of a waste. Well, a one-liner might be all right, but a couple of a phrase or something. But hearing people talk about developing backstory,
Oh yeah,
that's,
your like 17-page backstory for the clown that's got the standard garb on. Yep.
yeah, it's like I didn't do that. I mean, like I can, but I'm not spending that time writing a book about my character because when I put on my garb, I'm just going to go out there and see if I can get a scare out of somebody. I don't need to write a novel about it. I'm
Yeah,
not.
and literally no one that goes to the haunt gives any shits about what the backstory is. They don't
Yeah,
have time. They're not that invested in it. Unless they're like you're the icon of Halloween Horror Nights, then you need a backstory. Um Other than that, you're just there to, make these people enjoy their night. Like they don't give a shit what your backstory is.
yeah,
I've
they're getting.
never understood that.
Yeah, most of them are getting out of the apartment or the house to get a breath of fresh air and do something fun. They are not there for the reasons that the actors are there. If they're wanting to inflate their character or their ego, it's like those people, and like me doing the reviews, I was going out for fun just to check it out and give my 2 cents on what I thought. And in a couple of cases, I had my daughter with me, and I'm getting out of the house, and it's just something to do for fun. And I'm just going through, and when someone's trying too hard on me, I'm like, I roll, or I'm like, dude, annoying. It's annoying. You're annoying me. And in one situation, I have a friend of mine. I like him a lot. He runs one, and it's a touching haunt. And one of his actors was like, I'm going to put you in this cage. And I was like, I agreed to let him touch me and all. And I had a great time. I had the most fun in this dude's haunt that I've ever had in any haunt. And I think it's the number one for the most fun I've ever had. I mean, I laughed. I had just the greatest time ever. But one of his actors was like, I'm going to put you in this. Oh, it was a refrigerator. I'm claustrophobic, and I also will not let anyone tie my hands. I had a bad experience at one point in my life, and I won't let anyone put me in handcuffs or lock me in a cage. I'll never do a McCamey Manor.
That was an
That
after dark story right there, man.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, it is. It's a funny story, but I learned my lesson on relinquishing that amount of power to anyone. So here's the dude going, "You're getting in this box," and I'm like, "I'm not." And he's like, "You are," and I'm like, "I'm not." And he goes, "You are," and I'm like, I am not getting in there. And my friend was with us, guiding us through because he knew us. But had he not been there, blows might have been exchanged. I swear, like if that dude tried to shove me in that box, I was going to knock his ass out. I was already I was aiming at his jaw already. I was like lining up the shot. And, this is a friend of mine. I didn't come there to fight. I didn't come there to be a jerk. I wasn't being rude. I was just like, I'm not getting in that box, dude. And that was kind of an awkward thing. It's like they're being told they can touch you and everything, and I agreed, but I didn't agree to get locked up. So that was just something that really wasn't covered. But my friend, had he not been there, that could have been like real bad. He told the guys like, leave him alone, never mind, and we went on to the next scene. But had my friend not been standing there, I don't know, man. I mean, that might have been real bad. Like I was kind of like, what the hell, and if you submerge yourself too deeply into acting like your character, actors have experience like Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger both described having to have rehab to get out of the Joker mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do pretend too hard, you're another personality, you can actually develop that personality. And it can actually be stronger than what you usually are as a person. So when they get too serious, like a whole bunch of bad things can go on. So that's my heartfelt recommendation to the whole industry and, newbies, just do it medium. Like, don't go for the Academy Award.
I mean, it's really just have fun doing it. Like, don't. Nothing about haunting is life or death. It is perceived to be life or death, obviously, but it isn't.
Well, I'm telling you, the ones that believe they're really going to die, I've watched them run into walls, into each other, break their nose. So, when they think really like this is the big one, this dude really has a real chainsaw
Yeah.
and he's a saw me, they bolt and they will run over their friends. I mean, like they'll run over their mama, their grandma. They think that they're going to die. They're going to bolt and they'll hit walls and each other or maybe punch, they'll swing at you because they think their life's on the line. So you want to be mindful of like when they're when they're really that scared, you got to kind of have to let off of them. If you don't, it becomes dangerous. Not pumping your brakes it's bad news. I've seen it happen, and just want to urge everybody from bottom of my heart to like do it moderately. Don't do like the I'm a demigod. No, you're not. I see we are upon the hour, so I guess we're wrapping it up now. And that was pretty much like the gist of, after reading some of this stuff. And oh yeah, one more thing before we go. Somebody asked me once, within the last year, guy said, "Hey, what do you recommend I do if I go in the midway or I'm a queue line actor?" And no one's ever asked me that in all the years of me doing it. I got the first time question from somebody I knew online. And I said, well, that's interesting. No one's asked me that. The one thing I recommended is that you stay moving. Because sometimes, I think one time somebody snatched my hat and it pissed me off pretty bad. I had to go chase them down and get my hat back. But, if they linger and they let their guard down, their friends can be plotting to like pull your pants down or give you a wedgie or take your hat or whatever. So if you're standing there too long, like, let me tell you my backstory of where my character came from and blah, blah, blah. You get into some long drawn out conversation. Next thing you know, someone's come up behind you and, wedgied you or taking your hat or something. And so you can't stand in there engaging in a back and forth with the customers is a bad idea. And I've had people come up to me like, they do the guards in England that they know the guards aren't supposed to talk or do anything. And they come in your face and go, you can't touch me. You can't touch me. You can't. And they get in your face and get all like aggravating, or they want to ask you 500 questions. Like, I walk away from those people. I mean, I don't have to get into a back and forth with some smartass, asking me 20 questions. Like, what is this? What is this, an interrogation? I mean, I'm not on trial here. You don't have to answer all these questions if someone's coming up saying stuff like, you can't touch me, or asking you a bunch of questions. I've had some people, if they're antagonistic enough, get in my face saying all that, you can't touch me. And then I'll take my finger and poke them on the shoulder just like a kindergartner.
Just flick them on the nose.
Yeah, like I'm like, well, I just did. Like they can get real antagonistic. Just, don't play their game, I guess basically is what I'm saying to the actors. If someone wants to agitate or ask you a bunch of questions, you don't have to engage. You can totally like walk off. Or I've just stared. Sometimes I just stared at them till they shut up or walked off. Like literally just stop and look them in the eye and say nothing for several minutes until they give up. They walk off. I didn't give them a backstory.
That's why you want to keep that 62-page COVID operations manual handy.
Hold on.
Oh my God! Did we go up 2 more pages? Oh my God!
But yeah, I mean, this some of that stuff you can figure out on your own, but I've seen so much of it take so long that I just wanted to tell everybody out there, hey, like you don't have to get into it with the customers.
Yep.
And then trying too hard is does not do anything positive. I mean, you're not like earning an award for being the best actor.
Yeah.
You're not, you know, you don't get a prize. You don't get more money.
You get that
You
first slice of Little Caesars when it gets there.
you know what?
But
You won't
but
even
it's so
get
warm.
that unless it's in the room already ready for you. I mean, the half the time, you know, no one's witnessing what's happening to what's going on. So when they're like antagonizing you or whatever, I mean, the the person who delves out the rewards isn't even present to know, you know, how well or not well you're acting. So, you know, trying like too hard just doesn't do anything good. Not at all. It just doesn't work. So just like for some folks out there to relax, you know, like breathe. Um, and in certain situations, I don't think it's good to be too competitive. I mean, you're trying to be better than someone else too hard. Again, that's going to open up the same door for the customer getting too aggravated.
And
Or
it's like you're already there. What are you trying to prove? Just have fun doing it. You've
right.
got the position. Enjoy it.
Yeah. So, you know, one time back at the home hunt, guy approached me. He thought it was pretty damn awesome, and he said, "Hey, I want to give you act of the night, man. You're so damn good at that, man. I love it." And I said, "Dude, please don't. Just I don't want it because I don't want the other haunt actors to feel like they're not good. You know, I was like, I don't want them to complain about me being there and want me to get lost because I'm better, or they think I'm better, or I'm hogging the spotlight. And I told the manager, he was like, I told him, never give me actor of the night. I was like, give it to some of those people stuck in their box, the little boo hole all night. You know, give them the morale booster. I don't need it. I told him, I'm just having fun. I'm having a blast, dude. I told him, I don't want a smiley face sticker. Like, you can keep your actor of the night and give it to somebody else. And in fact, I don't like the ones that do that. It's like, man, a lot of them are busting their butt. And, you know, in certain situations, I've seen people just be poor. You know, they come from a poor family. Maybe instead of buying a new costume, they're paying their grandma's hospital bill. So some of them are out there like struggling dirt poor, and they can't afford to look really awesome. They just need to like get some fake blood dumping on them and go into a dark spot, and that's fine. I mean, I've scared people with a damn styrofoam head and a jack-o'-lantern on a stick. You know, I've done low budget stuff. It's held the jack-o'-lantern on the stick I did at Boo at the Zoo. I got more scares out of that thing than some of the other high dollar stuff I've put on, you know, like trying to be all fancy pants. It's like some stuff like you can do it with literally a pumpkin and a stick.
Dude, I scare people daily just going out in public.
Same here.
Like I'm a big dude, so it's like I was tattooed, pierced, and it's just Listen, I can put the fear of God in some old people, man. Just by walking into a store.
Yeah, hell, me and my buddy Andy, he was going to do a review. I went with him. I missed him. I hadn't seen him in a while. Drove to Birmingham. We went to the haunt. Get out of the car. People next to us start screaming. We weren't even trying. We didn't act. We weren't nothing. They just saw us and thought we looked weird and started going hysterical. And like we didn't even try. And we just laughed. That was like the highlight of the night. We got out of the car and they got scared. That was hilarious. So yeah, I mean, just remember everybody is out there haunting. Like, you don't necessarily have to be the best of the best of the best with honors. That can cause you problems.
With honors.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to be like the most awesome thing in the universe. Just have a good time, you know. Remember they want to have a good time too.
Yep.
And you know, when it comes to the whole fighting thing, you know, just remember a real fight can break out. And, you know, so if somebody's getting heated or, you know, bullyish or whatnot, you know, it's best to suck it up, Buttercup, most of the time. I mean, sometimes you can't, but most of the time just walk off or tell somebody. Or I would say it's not a professional move to talk smack or to like get
Don't get
rude
an
back.
ego at all. Never.
Yeah. I like I said though, I mean I keep it real and honest and not on my high horse. There's been times where I've mouthed off, but they're a very, very rare time. And it was because I was like really, 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 really ultra grouchy. That because I just wore out or tired, not my normal self.
Yeah, everybody has
Not,
off nights for sure.
yeah, every single human, has moments where they're just like grouchy or not feeling well, or just, there's a variety of things that we can go through as people that'll throw you off. Everybody slips a tad, but I just think, in like honk chat groups or when they're providing instructions towards how you handle the crowd, talking back or like getting rude is a bad move. That one should not be advised, is what I'm saying. Like I wouldn't give that off as like professional haunt advice.
Yeah, there's a lot of really bad advice in these haunt groups.
Yeah. So
Tons
as
of
a guy, I'm telling everybody out there, the guy who's saying talk smack has not seen a small scale riot like you don't want that, man. It's scary. Like it wasn't cool. And then after that night, man, like I'm a little more nervous than that night never left my mind. So when I'm in the thick of a crowd now, I'm a little more like, uh-oh, like this could go bad real quick. So it stole some of my peace, being involved in haunt acting. Thank God nothing happened. I doubt it ever will.
Unfortunately, and not to be the naysayer, and you'll hear it here first, folks, but this year will be a escalated violence year on haunted attractions.
Oh
It
yeah.
will be.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's no getting out of it, unfortunately, and it's going to end up being on both sides of the fence. And it's fantastic advice and everything else, Zach. I mean, I wish it was. I wish that was a golden standard, but this year,
keyword.
this year,
I just want to die.
I just fucking, I just got that. That is so funny. Gonna die, but laughing. But yeah, this is going to be an escalated year for violence. I mean, we're talking national news type things. Unfortunately, I get this feeling that being the first year out of we're not out of the pandemic, but this will be the first year that all the haunts will be reopening back. There'll be probably a chunk more opening for the first time this year. My advice to everybody, actor wise, is just to be more extra cautious than you normally would be, and definitely leave your anger at the door or leave it at home. Because I think there's going to be a lot of escalations this year. I think it's going to be kind of bad too.
On
Not
the
not to be a naysayer.
on the subject, what are your thoughts about? I'm seeing a bunch of like dudes starting to mimic each other by wearing like these bulletproof police military type of vests on their haunt gear. And I'm kind of like looking at that like, the more militant you look when you're out there, the more you might be sending the wrong message to people that are coming through. Like, hey, you're there to like, pull out your M16. I don't know, but this is like a thought that went through my head. I'm like looking at all that. I'm just like, on one
I mean,
hand, I don't
where are you seeing this at? Because I'm very curious.
pictures of costumes. I mean, you can
Yeah,
see
that
all.
haunt owners shouldn't allow that. There's no reason for you to have any sort of riot gear or bulletproof. That's unnecessary.
Where the
No,
hell is this haunt at that they're
To me-
Yeah,
rocking?
is it in New York or something?
Detroit?
I'm not. I'm not gonna, point at anybody on the show, but I could show you pictures after the show. I don't want to stir the pot that rough.
Well,
I'm just, I'm
I
just
don't
saying.
need pictures.
I
They'll
don't
just
think
piss me off.
I don't think it's a bad move, and I've done it myself. Like if you have undergarments, or like there was one lady who was she said she had been beaten up before, and she wore like like motorcycle armor under her costume. So if somebody punched her in the gut, it wasn't that bad. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's a good idea.
It,
That's and that's fine. But that was under her costume. She's not wearing like a bulletproof vest out on the outside.
Yeah, not to downplay. I hate this having this moment. If you're close enough to a customer, or you allow a customer close enough to you that they can punch you, see, I am not about the getting in your face thing.
Mhm.
I am more of a stay an arm or two length away from a customer. There's no reason to be that close to anybody on either end. So if somebody's close enough to you that they can actually throw a pretty decent punch into your chest, you're too close. You're too close.
Yeah.
That's my particular thinking. I'm not about the touchy feely haunts. I'm not about the come up 2 inches from your ear, scream in your ear, because you can pierce somebody's eardrum doing that, and that's a lawsuit. Um, I'm not about thinking that you need to go into a haunted attraction as a customer or a worker and think you need to have some sort of personal body armor. That to me means it's time to stop.
Yeah,
If
Mark.
you think that you have to go to a haunt with body armor, you need to do something else. To just do something else.
Mark had a good point too. He said the more prepared you look, the more you're telling the freaks you're accepting of it.
Yeah, and that's true. So I'm not about that. That's not no. If I owned a haunt or managing a haunt, and somebody walked in and said, "Yeah, I'm wearing a bulletproof vest," I'm like, "Well, then you need to go home." I literally would tell them, "You need to go home," or any sort of protective gear. I'm like, "Then you need to go home." That's me though. Anyway, sorry, that's me.
Oh, no need to be sorry. I mean, that's what we're throwing out all of our thoughts here about the topics.
Where's the fun in thinking you need to wear something to keep a bullet from your chest? That's like saying, well, I'm going to wear a bulletproof chest thing to Walmart. If I think I'm going to a Walmart where I need to wear like literally like Kevlar, I'm not going to go to that Walmart.
You mean
Um,
you don't bring your M16 to Walmart when you shop?
I'm cross-eyed. I don't bring any gun anywhere because I don't own one. I'd end up taking myself out first probably. But but yeah, for me, like I said, I I don't like touchy feely haunts. I don't like any of that kind of stuff. I don't like people that get close to me and scream in my ear. I have actually looked at people that did that to me and literally said, "You can." I literally will tell somebody, "You can bust somebody's eardrum out for that, and then you would be liable for it." And the few times I've had to do that with an actor, they've looked at me like, "Holy shit!" I mean, because it doesn't scare me. And my ears are ringing. There's a lot of things that I see haunts do that I think people think is cool. It's not. It's not. Don't bow up on somebody. Don't get your nipples so damn close to somebody because you think you need to scare them. I personally think that's ridiculous. I also personally think that if you are surrounded by a crowd, then whoever designed the haunt should be fired.
Mm-hmm.
Crowds need to be corralled. They need to be in roped lines. They need to be the distance from everything else because you don't want them running around. You don't want them ganging up on you. There's just a lot of things I do that I I think should be standard for haunts for safety's sake.
Secret
For
I
anything
word.
can't
else.
take it anymore. I
Yeah,
just want to
that's
die.
gonna get on my nerves.
I got to do it.
I know that's fine. It's just gonna get on my nerves.
It's like Pee
Um,
Wee Herman's
that's okay.
secret word. It's the secret word. Ah! No.
At least I guess I can't hear the sound you're playing. If I guess I should, but anyway, that's my thoughts on that particular aspect. I would not allow anybody. I wouldn't allow any actor, volunteer or otherwise, coming in with any sort of crowd protective gear. That to me is then literally go do something else. Go do something else.
But
That's just me.
one dude messaged me. He asked a question in a group. Because he wanted to start a haunt, and he got a bunch of naysaying and non-responses, and I messaged him and said, hey, I'll answer your question, and I know a lot about what goes on. We got to talking. He listened to about most of what I said, but then he shifted into this one mode of, well, I was in the military and I know all this MMA and I'm gonna military this and military that, and I was like, man, I can already tell you right now, you're probably gonna make your actors feel too strict or overworked, if you're too militant, you know, like you need to let them breathe a little bit and have some fun. And secondly, I mean, it does help to know martial arts to be, you know, facing people in the crowd. But I haven't had to fight anybody. I know martial arts too, and I haven't had to punch anybody the whole time that I've done. And I've had people try to start fights, and you know, I've never been hit. I never hit anybody, and I've never been hit. It's totally avoidable. It's like you can see certain things coming. And even like, you know, wandering through crowds, some of them are so packed, you get close to them whether you want to or not. And I don't, you know, I haven't been hit is all I'm trying to say. It's like, if I can do it, so can somebody else. And when it comes to the personal space thing, I've gotten real close to people, but I also know that if I'm that close, they can swing and it'll connect. So I'm watching real carefully for any kind of small movement that may seem like a punch. Or most of the people that got hit in the haunt where I'm from was from some little girl, not a big dude picking a fight, but a little girl who screams and goes, ah, and her hand flies and it smashes their nose. We had people in the nurse's tent all the time because of that. They're getting real close and someone flails their arm and it smacks the actor, and it was totally not like an aimed punch. It wasn't where like the girl meant to connect. She flings her arm and it connects by accident. So all the blows that happened, most of them were accidental. But when these dudes are like, well, I know all this military stuff and I can whoop all this ass, I'm like, dude, you've already got the wrong mindset. right off the bat. You know, I told the guy, I was like, you really, like, that's good to know that stuff, but that shouldn't be your mentality, that you're going to do all this ass whooping, because it doesn't happen that often at all. I mean, it happens here and there, but most people, even when they act like they're going to fight, don't. There was a period where I got tired of hearing it, and people would say they were going to do something, and I'm like, I'm tired of hearing this. Like, when are y'all going to swing? You say you're going to punch me, and I'm waiting. So not one of you has done it. So don't say you're going to do it when you're not. I've literally like talking. I've stopped and been like, dude, like, why are you even talking like this? Like, where is this going? I'm just saying, I haven't gotten into a fist brawl.
My adage on that too, and I would tell everybody this: if you have a customer that threatens to hit you or slap you or punch you in the nuts or whatever, just walk away, get security or get the police, and have them removed. I don't care if it's just a threat. That's just me though. That's just me. If you have a customer says, "Man, you get too close to me, I'm going to punch you," right there, you just, as the actor, you walk away. You find your police or actor and say, "That guy right there needs to be removed." And if he doesn't like it, then you have him banned from the area. I guess I just don't put up with that shit because nothing gets to me like that. And I think if more haunts did that to people who threaten like that, like whether they're in the haunt or in the line, the word would get out not to open your mouth to threaten to hit an actor. That's just me, though.
No refunds for stupidity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing we ran into was there were so many people that they didn't have enough staff to kick them all out. So I wound up being the guy that would kick them out. I doubled as security many times, and I was loved for many of it because they were like, "Hey, Zac will bounce them," and then I'd follow the dude out till I watched them get. I watched them get in their car because some of them would like pretend to leave and not leave, and I'd like literally watch them go. But
see, and
I mean,
off-duty police officers are extremely inexpensive for what they can do. I'm also very, very much into that. You get some off-duty police officers in full gear with their twirly lights. They're extremely inexpensive, and it's amazing what that'll do. People in security shirts don't do shit. They don't.
They don't.
But you get one or two police officers out at the front with their lights just twirling real low. Ooh, and they're walking around. I tell you, it's worth the money. Once
Mhm.
again, that is my adage.
Right. The
So
poor in certain scenarios in certain haunts, the poor old scene actors can't go get someone, and I feel bad for them. I mean, they'd be like trapped in a corner, and I've brought that up in certain situations. I went to this one place, and there's this tiny person in the room all by themselves, and I knew lines of a-holes would come through, and I was like, "You're a sitting duck." I told the actors, like, "You're tiny, and you're going to have some problems. You might want to go into another scene with someone else and then have the buddy system." But I was like, "But you're in danger, literally, like sitting here." And they
well,
were like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." I don't care, like, what, again, like I told that other fella, I said, "Forget about what your peers are saying. Like, you need to think of your own mental health and your own safety. So don't worry about irritating somebody if you're in danger. Like, take care of yourself. Who cares, like, if they get mad that you, quote unquote, abandon your thing, because your safety is more important than,
yeah.
you know, what everybody thinks of you." I guess is my main point of coming on the show and talking about it. It's like, forget about like the peer pressure and all. Like, you can literally get seriously hurt. I know at one point, well, this is over a decade ago, but a girl said a guy grabbed her and pulled her behind the scene and almost raped her, but she got away. And that also changed me a lot, just like the small scale riot thing did, because I never imagined that being a problem until she said that. And then I thought, oh my God, like, imagine trying to scream for help in the middle of a haunt where you hear nothing but screams, like, "Ah, help me, it's gonna kill me," or like, if you're really in danger and you're in the middle of a haunt and all those screams are going on, like, no one's gonna like think anything of it. They're just gonna think it's like nothing
Mm-hmm.
serious happening. And
Well,
after she told me that, I said, never, ever, ever, always walk in twos. I was like, from this night on, we had a meeting and I said, "Hey, y'all, this happened to this person, and y'all are to walk in twos at this point. Like, never walk around by your onesies on this big giant property, because you could run into somebody dangerous, and then you're by yourself, and then you try to scream. It's going to get drowned out." So that,
well, that here let me give you this is my tip for that. One, inside the haunt, every other scene has a walkie-talkie or a little little walkie-talkie. And because you can't afford one for every scene. And yeah, the screams and all that stuff, but if you're in a scene that doesn't have a walkie-talkie and you need help ASAP, you scream out the word call, because
uh,
you never use the word call in a haunt. But
mhm.
if you hear somebody saying call and they're saying it over and over again, and you've got the walkie-talkie, you just immediately call and they know where your scene is, and it's either going to be the guy at the person at the scene or the person next to you. That's my little tip for that. Because walkie-talkies these days are cheap as shit. Hell, if you can afford it, give every scene a walkie-talkie. And then, like, you basically, if you've got somebody who's having to go off on property and it's dark and they're by themselves, either give them a walkie-talkie or have somebody go with them if it's, a guy or a girl.
I
There,
think
see, there's
a
just
panic
there's
button
so
would
many.
be like every scene has a panic button. Super
Yeah, but you know what?
easy, super cheap to do.
Yeah, well, not as cheap as you think, because it either has to be wireless or it has to be wired, and then that call or the panic button has to either have a light or something. I thought about that moons ago, and it seems like it'd be cheap because it's just a button, but you have to have a complete system to know where you're at.
Well, this is the
If you've got
programming side of me speaking. So,
Well, hell
I,
yeah, so you should build that. You could probably sell it for a gazillion dollars. But now, if you have somebody at like, and it was always, you either designated what the scene was, or scene 3 or scene 4 or whatever. Um, it's just walkie talkies. You can get those for $10, and then you can communicate back and forth. Like, what's the problem? We're on our way. So it's a two-way thing. Hell, a lot of them just had their cell phones too. Um, that to me, there's so many things that haunts can do that are inexpensive to make things safer. That's why, like I said, it's haunts that have like super bunch of issues. There's just no reason for it. They're just being dumbasses, or they're being cheap.
Yeah,
That's just my
if they
opinion.
if they keep expanding the size of their haunt instead of investing in the strategies like you're mentioning, that's what's irking me. It's like, man, you want to add more and more and more scenes, but what about more and more security? What about
Right,
what about more and more exits? What about
right.
more and more like emergency lighting when you leave your scene and you can run to the bathroom or run to security because you've got you know LED lights on the floor and it's not bitch ass black.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess that's one of the things that kind of irking me is like some of them just like keep expanding, and building. It's like, man, maybe you should make it so big. But
Mhm.
maybe you need like more actors to rotate them and more security and more walkie talkies.
Well, you're
But
coming
but
at it too logically, because they're
yeah.
they're not going to make money off of the safety protocols. So,
that's all my problem. I'm like, I've got high functioning autism, so I'm like super computer androidy kind of guy, and I do miss the mark on, you know, I just think so logically a lot, many times that I'm not on the same channel as a lot of folks, so I'll just put it like that. Like one time, and I'm glad I wasn't in management, and this is like say over a decade ago, a beer shipment was stolen by someone, and I'm glad I had nothing to do with it. But I wouldn't have thought someone would steal the beer truck, but it happened, and I wouldn't have thought. I'm not a thief, so I don't think like that. So I would have totally like dropped my guard and fallen prey to that because I'm not sitting there thinking like a thief. Uh, I don't know. There's a bunch of chaos that goes on in the haunt biz. So just want to tell the actors that are young, hey, it's okay to take a break. It's try not to overdo it, and just keep your safety as your primary thoughts. Um,
Yeah,
but
and the deal is too is if you're a volunteer and you feel like you're being abused, this would be my contribution. If you feel like you're being abused, even if you're a volunteer, you actually can report the haunt. You can report them, because if you think that you're being used and abused, or there's dangers that literally could cause you injury or death, you can actually go to authorities and you can go to the city or the county and report them, and they will be investigated. Just because you're not getting paid doesn't mean you cannot report this place. Um, and that's my recommendation is don't be afraid to. You may not be able to haunt there, but if you feel like you're in danger, you don't want to be there anyway. But you can actually go and report them to the authorities, to code enforcement. Um, Trust me, you've got power beyond what you think you do. You can get them shut down easily.
yeah, they. I don't know. It's just sometimes when they're out there, I worry that they aren't thinking. You know, like I told that one actor, I was like, "Oh, do you know that you're the only one here, and how tiny you are? And if a big long line of people comes through here, what are you going to do?" I literally drilled him on, "What's your escape plan? Like, what's your safety plan? Like, have you even thought about it?" And I think when you're haunt acting, you need to think about like, what am I going to do if I have to bolt? Maybe you need to carry a flashlight. Maybe you need to, But I do like quiz some of the people that I think are not on their guard, and I'll talk to them and be like, "Hey, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to like, what's your escape plan?" Or I just think it's good to talk about a lot of it up front, especially when it comes to the rowdy customers that are going to get testy with the
Yeah.
act. Like they really do need some sort of like prepping thing, where they're getting counseled prior to being thrown into it. Um, but I've seen people looking for ways to make like a training program or whatever, and I was asked to weigh in on some of it. I would prefer this format where I can just talk casually I mean, I don't necessarily want what I'm saying to be some sort of like, you know, program. I'm just saying I've seen stuff go wrong, and my advice is to be middle of the road about it, and to also think about, you know, your escape plan, or what you will do if someone does want to fight you, or like it does get dangerous. So that was just the gist of what I wanted to say. I don't want anybody to like either say, well, that's not how you do it, or you can't do it like that, or don't say that, or don't say this. Like, I just wanted to just like ramble about my thoughts about what I've seen while I do it, and just extend it as, hey, this is what I think you should think about when you're out there, and don't be ashamed. Like, I think shaming people in certain circumstances is a very bad thing to do.
Yep.
Again,
Very true.
and then also I think it's bad when, you know, you're making them compete against each other. Like, if they're too competitive out there, that can also cause trouble. I mean, it's everybody likes a good competition here and there, but if it gets too much, man, like I say, I've seen haunt actors like try to run other ones off, and I've stopped. There was two newbies one year, and there was a lot of people saying that they were not worthy, and it broke my heart because every time I walked by their scene, they were high energy. They were busting it, man. They were like at level 10 energy all night, and I was just like, wow, they're giving it all they got, and then these other folks are like, you guys suck. You need to get out of here. And it's like, I there was a meeting after I'd heard enough, and I said, y'all need to leave them alone. I'm walking by and I'm seeing them do 150%. They're just as worthy to be here as any of the rest of you. And they couldn't afford like the best looking things. But when it came to heart, they were outshining some other people in like way better looking gear as far as their energy level went. And I'm just seeing that some of those actors are going to get territorial and make the other ones feel uncomfortable or run them off. And that also, I find that to be kind of crappy.
Zach, you know what the two magic words are to people like that? You know what makes them shut right the fuck up? Because I've done this before. You know what the two words are? What you do is you hear somebody say something like that, you walk up to them real chill and just look at them right now and say, "You're replaceable,"
Hmm.
and that will shut. They won't say another word. I guarantee it.
Well, I guess, yeah, that's right. But I think it's more effective when the boss says it.
Yeah, but
I can't. I,
which is true. But sometimes the bosses and the owners are the problem. They're the ones that allow that shit to happen. They're not
yes.
always the ones that. But you walk up to somebody. I think it's more effective coming from somebody they wouldn't expect it from. Trust me, it's two words, man. You're replaceable, and they will stop and think about that because then they'll think, well, huh. That's just me again. That's just me again. Throwing that out there.
Right on. Well, I have, that was kind of weighing on me. I might do another video where I talk about the night of that fight. I have a buddy of mine that was there that night who also agreed that that fight should have never occurred. And if we would have had some sort of like, hey, you try one time and then you let off, that kind of strategy would have prevented that big fight. Like, in other words, if we had a distance rule or a 2-second rule or whatever rule, that thing wouldn't have gotten that far out of hand. If we had like a protocol that would have stopped it, but we didn't back then. That, like I said, was over a decade ago. But he and I were talking about that, and he worked at another haunt, and he said they had a motto, and they said, "One and you're done." And I was like, that's a really cool motto. That's a really cool catchphrase. I like that. One and you're done. Would have stopped that big group fight. But we didn't have that back then. We're just all like fumbling around, figuring out what we're doing. But I just think everybody should have sort of like a protocol procedure thing that they work out. And like you're saying, some of them don't have that. Some of them don't have anything worked out. but to throw it out there to those that don't, so that, I just don't want anybody to be in the middle of a bunch of brawling people like I was. That night was terrible. Like I literally did feel like my life was in danger. And I haven't felt like that very many times in my life. But that night, I remember it like it was yesterday. So to all the young hunters and the amateurs out there, like, please, do it mildly. Like don't ramp it up to level 10. Like, stay at a 5 or 7. But if you go, don't go full Spalding. Never go full Spalding. But that's the gist of what I wanted to share. I feel like it's very important.
That's a good topic, man.
Yeah. And I'll do this for James. Why be standard when you could be exceptional?
I can't take it
Hit
anymore.
it.
I just want to die.
If
Just
you're gonna
for
have
you.
I mean,
Oh my God.
oh Lord. But James, like you said, you did or have done plenty of like mingling in the crowd, like what do you do when some a-hole walks up and starts talking smack?
I just leave.
like,
Just walk
leave.
away. There's no point in engaging in it.
You're not a man.
Yeah.
You're not macho enough, James. I'm just kidding. But that's
when you walk away and you laugh.
400 pounds, dude. Like, so I was not easily intimidated. I just, there's nothing is worth fighting over when it comes to haunt stuff.
Yeah.
If you can't handle it, don't be here.
You know what else, Dave? You just made me think of something else that weighs in or bothers me about the experience of being a haunt actor. There's a few dudes like you that are real big dudes, and they're gentle and guardian. I call them guardians because they're big dudes, but they don't walk around acting like they're going to whoop ass.
Mm-hmm.
And those are, to me, invaluable people. I know a few of them that are big dudes that they hug people, shake hands, and I just feel comforted by their presence. I'm like, this real big dude right here is going to save me if something bad happens. And they're not walking around acting like they're cock of the walk. They don't act like they're going to whoop ass.
Yep.
Like, I feel totally comfortable with them, and I'm glad they're there. And there's some other ones that are these big, huge dude, and they talk all this crap like they're going to whoop ass. Or they put this vibe of, I'm the alpha dog and like I'll run this, and you better not look at me sideways. And they're throwing that vibe out there, and that vibe sucks, man. I'm like, I hate it when there's those big dudes that act like that.
Yep.
One actor, when I was new to a place, he looked at me one time. He's like, "Man, you look really intimidating." And it bothered me because I was like, dude, I don't want you to be intimidated by me. It's like the opposite of what I want. I want you to know I'm cool. Like, I want to be welcome. I don't want you thinking I'm gonna whoop ass. I'm not here to do that.
Yeah.
But
that's like what I said earlier. I'll go out in the public and I scare all these old people, but I'm the first one to get something off a high shelf for an old lady.
Yeah. I know one fella, he does medieval reenactments. They swing the swords and the shields, and they'll do that all day. This dude's like a really, 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 practiced warrior. He's a tough guy, man, but he doesn't talk smack, man, or even act like he's going to fight anybody because he knows that he can hold his own, so he doesn't have anything to prove. He's just like, not one. I worked with him for 9 Octobers, and he never once ever was associated with any kind of negativity or drama. And I love that dude, man. And there's a few of them out there, but then there's the others that are like, they grab the mic or they start talking stuff that,
I'll bring the drama. Like, I mean,
they're trying to act like they rule.
I'll call the bullshit when I see it, and I do it on here all the time. But
yeah, but I just, for all the gentle giants out there, the big guys that are the warm, fuzzy teddy bears. I mean, they're the ones I like seeing and being around when I'm out there doing my thing. Like, I love those guys. They're
Yeah, the
needed.
mouthy ones aren't going to do you any good whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, they might be able to, but I'm just saying, like, it's the atmosphere. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. Like, I would prefer a lighthearted, we're giggling and laughing and hugging, a non what they call toxic masculinity
Mm-hmm.
is a real thing, and it's crappy. Like, I don't like the super macho vibe. It's not good.
Yeah, well,
It's
you
not
could
good.
be 7 feet tall and still have the Napoleon complex.
I've met them. I've dealt with them. There's been plenty of bigger dudes at the haunt, like towering over me, trying to intimidate or bully. And I've dealt with it. It's old news. Funny thing is, when it comes to the really big guys, nobody wants to fight a big guy that can smash your face. So chances are, if you fight a real big guy, he's not that experienced. It's some little tiny dudes that get picked on forever, and they're like a Wolverine or a honey badger. They're in deep trouble because they're angry from all the wedgies they received in high school, and they're the ones that you really just better not mess with the little guy. They're very frustrated people, but when it comes to the big giant dudes that are real nice, man, they're just, God bless every one of you that are out there as a haunter that's a big dude who's like, nice. And like, for me, in customer service jobs or in all kinds of other situations, you can have like a really rough time in the world. You show up at the haunt and, dude's like giving you a hug. That can mean the world. It can be like, it's the best feeling in the world to me to get, a nice hug from a big giant dude, and it's not considered gay. It's not considered, like all the machoism is set aside. And I like the friendly people. Like that was one of the perks when I got into haunt acting. I wasn't necessarily doing it for the social aspects. So starting off my front yard, I was doing it for the giggles of people screaming and running. But I got to where I enjoyed, before and after the show, eat some food and chatting with some cool people. And the cool ones make it like so warm and nice. And then like the ones that are acting foul and intimidating, man, it just kind of ruins the atmosphere. It doesn't feel like a party, I enjoy the party, the let's smile and have fun and like each other. But when it comes to the vibe of this guy's gonna whoop ass, that's a bad vibe. It's not a fun feeling. So I definitely appreciate the bigger dudes that are like, the kind of person that'll hug you or, talk to you as if you're family or friends.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're there like, this is my house, I rule, be quiet, don't step out of line, and if they're acting like the big boss man, it's like, oh dude, party pooper.
Bring
like
me
this.
that Little Caesars pizza.
Oh Lord. Well, I am surprised that I'm running out of jabber juice because I
Look,
can
man, you
ramble.
took us into almost a 2-hour stream tonight, so you
Yeah, that's great.
Well, that's unfortunately, it means the next time I talk, I won't have anything to say.
I doubt that severely.
Yeah, I doubt it too. I've got more stories. There's some paranormal stuff I've seen at a haunt. There's all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm loaded with stories because I'm old. When you're old, you just have a bunch of stories because you're old. That's how it works.
Well, Mike's got a ton of them, so
I was gonna say witness. Witness.
witness. I don't have quite
Witness.
as many stories.
Well, you weren't at the right place at the right time if it's paranormal stories. And that stuff is, I hate the paranormal shows because when some guys get some video cameras and go to some place, they have to drum up some bullshit. Like ghosts don't pop out, when you want them to. They're not paid actors.
Right.
They're they don't perform on cue. So if you see something strange, like, it happens when it happens, just like the weather. Like it rains, you don't get to command it. You don't get to set up a video camera and go, "Oh, I got it!" Like there's the ghost every night at 8 o'clock on schedule. It's ridiculous. I hate the paranormal shows. I mean,
Good night,
there is paranormal footage that's legit and real, but they were lucky that they got it while the cameras and everything was there. Those guys can get stuff like if it's happening every night or on a regular basis. But in general, you get your equipment, you run out to the graveyard or the haunted house, and you got nothing. What you did get was maybe somebody farting or like the refrigerator kicking on or, something, but it ain't a ghost.
Well, it's like those Expedition Bigfoot. They're like, we're gonna find it. And it's like, I'm sure this would have been on the news long before your footage aired.
Yeah.
Because if you find Bigfoot, that shit's gonna be on the news like immediately. You're not hiding it until your show airs.
Well, another thing on that topic is, and I mean, like me and another girl at the haunt where I came from, it's haunted, and we camped out, and she got a picture of a shadow of a person, and there was no one there when she snapped the photo. I cleared the room. I know there was no one there, and it was skewed. It wasn't like a normal silhouette of a person. It looked like it was stretched in Photoshop, but it was a humanoid outline. And you can show literally like a picture to someone of, let's just say, like a UFO or a Bigfoot or a ghost, and if the person doesn't believe you, even though you have a video of it or a picture, it's a hard sell to someone that thinks it's fake, because there's so much that they can say it is. It's like Photoshop, or it was just like a shadow or whatever. So you could even get like an actual picture of Bigfoot, but the news won't air it because they'll be like, "Oh, it's a guy in a costume." And so, like, you could literally have found Bigfoot and no one would believe you. So the paranormal the world can be like that. It's just weird. It's like you could actually literally have proof, and someone would just be like, "That's not real." So it's a strange thing to try to convince another person of. I gave up on trying. I just know certain things are real because I've seen it with my own two eyes. Other people, if they haven't, when you try to tell them, now the people that have seen it, like Mike, or they're like, "Oh yeah, I believe it. It's real. I've seen it with myself." But you try and tell somebody something that hasn't had an experience, and it's most of them don't swallow it. I've tried. I gave up.
I'm fully on board with it.
Yeah.
I know the shit that I've seen.
It's totally real, absolutely real. But
Speaking of, like, this is sort of on topic, but not really quite on topic. Has anybody seen Fear Street? Like the first and second movies out of the three, they're on Netflix. It was really damn good.
Oh, I think I played one of those last night, but I fell asleep in the middle of it. It's got a number 2, but I did watch the first one, but didn't go all the way.
It's Fear Street. I think the first one's 1994, and then like 1970 something.
I need to give it a rewatch because I failed.
It is a little slow. It's kind of slow, but when you get to the second movie, a lot of stuff starts coming together from the first, because they're going backwards in time. So and for R.L. Stine, he went hard on this. It's pretty freaking gory.
I like R.L. Stine.
I do too, but it's not a Goosebumps thing like at all. He
kicked it up. He kicked it up to adult levels.
Oh, he did, yeah, for sure.
All right. Well,
there's some pretty good gore. I don't want to give anything away, but when you see the scene in the first movie, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Well, speaking of gore, I watched Psycho Goreman.
Classic.
And Mike, recommended, and that was a pretty fun watch. I was glad for the recommendation. So now that James, you're recommending this one, I need to watch it again and not fall asleep in the middle of it. But that's what happens when you're watching stuff when you're tired. I generally I kick on Netflix as I'm trying to relax and go to sleep, and consequently I fall asleep in the middle of the movie. I'll eventually watch the whole thing.
The story's a little slow in the first movie. The first movie isn't quite as good as the second. The second one really gets into it, and it's to me the second was definitely better than the first. The first was fine, a little slow because they're trying to give you a lot of information. Second one really gets into it though, so it's really I enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see the third one. Comes out like on the 27th, I think, of this month.
Well, I'm gonna definitely have to, commit myself to watching them all now.
For sure, give it you got to just kind of take the first one as it comes. It's like I said, it's a little slow. The second one though is like, oh, all right. I can't wait to see where they're going with this third one.
Damn it! I should have wrote the name of this movie down, but it basically, you might remember it. You might know what I'm talking about, but it's based on a haunt where someone is really killing people at the haunt. Have you seen that on Netflix?
Yes.
Forgive.
And you know what pisses me off is when I was in film school, I wrote a script about that exact, and nobody knew, and it was exactly like what you said with the girl earlier. Like nobody would know because the screams are real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these people are going through a haunt, and they're being picked off slowly. My script was called Valerian Manor, and I wrote it in like 2007.
Pretty awesome.
I was so mad.
I've had similar experiences, but that's a whole nother ramble. But I brought the movie up because I felt like, aside from the real killer, that it captured the essence of what a haunt should be like as far as the crowd interactions with, the actors were going up to the people and kind of like, ah, and then they were stopping, remember when they were just kind of like roaming around outside and they had the free roaming actors. So that's about what, if I wanted to describe to someone what you should do, I would have them watch that movie and to say, don't really kill anybody, but making
don't actually kill them though.
But what I think the roaming crowd actors should do is act like in that movie, just like kind of come up and go blah, and then they walk off, and then everyone's giggling and it's all good. But I thought that captured the essence of what you should do when you're a crowd actor in perfectly. Like they weren't like hanging out in their face for too long. They weren't really saying anything. They're just kind of like roaming and mingling, and like kind of like getting the boo here and there. And that's how I do it now, knowing what can happen and knowing the mistakes and all that. I just kind of mildly now. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. Is I go mild. I mean, it's like other people that are trying to be more zealous might critique my style and be like, he's not doing it good enough. That's not right. And I'm like, no, I mean, like I tone it down from having known what happens when you go too hard. So like I'm as a veteran, like I'm just kind of like mild about it nowadays. But we got 1 minute.
Yeah, let's wrap it up at 11, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, for me,
James,
it's 10 for me. Ha ha. Y'all are like more sleep deprived than myself.
It's only 10 for Mike too. I'm the only one getting screwed here.
Yeah, don't say y'all because I'm 10 o'clock too.
Oh well.
But I need to go eat. I'm gonna go eat a sandwich.
All right.
But yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Zach, thank you so much, and I'll let James send you off too. But thank you so much for coming on, and man, that was awesome. I'm sure everybody super enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It's always good to ramble about haunted attraction stuff. But we will definitely let everybody go. We will see you again on Wednesday for another Haunters Anonymous. And I will keep mine short and say stay safe, and then just pass it on to James.
Yes, thank you a ton, Zach. It's always great to have you on.
Thank you.
It's a good time. But for everybody else, thank you for being here. Thank you for
Absolutely.
interacting and carrying on the conversation. And see you guys on Wednesday back on here.
Wednesday. Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Everybody have a good night.